Alright guys, how we doing? So, again here, we have multiplication division here. So we're going to start with negative 5x equals negative 10. Alright, so keep in mind, our goal is to always get the variable by itself. We always use this equal sign in the middle, by meaning what we mean by side. Is x alone on this side? We say no because there's a negative 5 there, and I want to get rid of that negative 5. Now what happens is, how do I get rid of this negative 5? I have to ask myself, what is negative 5 and x doing? So what we see is what's between them. There's no add, subtract, there's no divide, so we just say, no, that's multiply between. So from there, that means we can divide by negative 5 on both sides. So we divide by negative 5. Notice we do negatives because negative and negative cancel out. 5 divided by 5 is 1. So we're left with just x, because 1 times x is x. Equal sign always stays in the middle. Negative and negative is a positive. 10 divided by 5 is 2. And that's my answer. And I can check that. Negative 5 times 2 is negative 10. So when we get here, we'll start with 7x equals negative 8. Now what I want us to look at is, I want you to take just 30 seconds to get this problem done. Just 30 seconds. Don't take longer. Don't overdo it. I want you to take 30 seconds to get this done. So take about 30 seconds to try this. If you're doing more than 30 seconds, you're doing something wrong. And stop. All right. So again, this is going to frustrate some of you because I know what some of you did. All right. So here is the 7 times x. Here's x. We're trying to get by itself. So we're going to divide by 7. Remember, I can use a fraction bar. I don't have to use division like I did over here. Fraction bar means the same thing. 7 over 7 is 1. 1 times x is just x. Equals. Now, here's the part. I can just leave that as negative 8 over 7. There's nothing wrong with that answer. It's perfect. All right. I mean, if I want to, I can call it negative 1 and 1/7. Now, I can change it to a decimal, but I don't really want to right now. I mean, if the problem said change it to a decimal, then I would do it. But when it comes down to it, if I don't need to, I'm going to leave it as a fraction. I'm going to do the least amount of work as possible because there's no reason to do more unless I have to. All right. So that's what we're looking for there is negative 8 over 7 or negative 1 and 1/7. All right. And you can see here why it would work. 7 times negative 8 over 7. The 7s would cancel out, and I'd be left with negative 8, which is the answer I wanted. All right. So now we get to fractions. Let's do this. Let's skip C for now, and let's do D because D looks harder. All right. D looks much more complicated, so I'll do D, and maybe I'll let you have about a minute or two to try C on your own. All right. So when I do D, the first thing I want to do is let's get rid of this mixed number. Let's say 5 times 3 plus 2. Let's say that's 17 over 5. X equals 28 plus 3 is 31 over 7. All right. Now, I don't care if it's a fraction. I know it looks ugly. I don't care if it's a fraction. This just means 17 over 5 times x. What's the inverse? Divide by. So I'm going to divide by 17 over 5. I'm going to divide by 17 over 5. I'm going to left 17 over 5 divided by 17 over 5 is x. And now I have to do this. Now, before I get too complicated, right, that's where it gets weird, but I mean, it's going to say 31 over 7 divided by 17 over 5. Flip change, 31 over 7 times 5 over 17. And that ends up being 155 over 119. 119. Nothing goes into those two things, so that can be my answer. 155 over 119. And I could always make it to a mixed number, 1 and 1 something. All right, but that's fine for now. All right, so take about a minute and see if you can do C. All right, I'll give you one little hint. We'll start with 3 over 5 x equals, let's put the negative 2 on top, negative 2 over 7. All right, and let's take about a minute to get that done. All right, so I say go. Try it for a minute. And while you do that, it's 8:11. I'm going to pour myself a Diet Coke. Yeah. I know you can hear that soda. All right, 10 more seconds. And we're done. All right, so 3/5 divided by 3/5 divided by 3/5. X is going to end up giving me -2/7 divided by 3/5, which is -2/7 times 5/3, which is -10/21. And there's my answer. And I'm done. That's all I want to do. Easy enough. All right. So now we get to the part where people are like, "Oh, that looks so ugly. I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that." So we're going to look at it for a couple minutes, maybe look at one, but I don't think it's any as hard as you may think it is. So z/5, here's one thing we can look at, is you can look at z/5, and I can write it as z divided by 5 equals -1. What's the inverse of divide? All right, and you're thinking, Mr. Hyde, where did divide come from? Remember, fraction is the same thing as division. So I can say times 5, and then z equals -5. And I'm done. All right, we'll show you one quick way. You could do this. This is the more of a textbook way to do it. Is you could sit there and say this is divided by, someone put the 5 up here to cancel the 5s out. So this cancel the 5s out, which means I do the same thing over here. So the 5s cancel out. I'm left with z. -1 times 5 is -5. So this is another option. You don't have to write this down. I know some of you are thinking, well, you should have told me that before I wrote it down. All right. So anyway, that's how we're looking for it. So why don't you try D? I'll end the video here. So you try D, see how you do, and then you can talk to your group. All right. Good luck.